in Kananaskis, but in the past it's often windy, and that was a big thing this summer, was the weather. Being really nervous about, you know how with COLTS we do a solo day before the summer really gets going, and I was pretty nervous about mine because, I don't know, I think I wanted it to be, because I didn't know, right? It was a complete surprise, complete mystery, and the plan, so this was the classic theme of this summer, was that the plan would change last minute. And so we would often find ourselves going on to, we would have plan A, then we moved to plan B, then it would turn to plan C, eventually we'd be on plan X. Like, God just kept changing our plans. And this continued even with the solo day plan. So they have a usual area that they like to send people for, right, not like the solo overnight, sorry, not day, but the overnight. And so, but because of COVID and restrictions and everything being closed, guess what that means? It means all the yahoos are out in the mountains with their ATVs, and so many places where they planned were just packed with people out partying and throwing garbage everywhere. And yeah, we did a lot of backcountry cleanup this summer. People throwing garbage everywhere and driving around on their ATVs, and you can't really call it an overnight solo if you're out with a ton of other people out there. So that was all of a sudden a change of plans, and all I remember from it initially was, so they blindfold us and driving blindfolded, and I was like, so I was so determined that I was going to like memorize kind of the way we drove and figure it out, and had this whole like big idea, or I built it up in my head that it was going to be this big navigation thing. So I was like, I'm going to be prepared, I'm going to figure this out. And yeah, it was like, because I love a challenge. And I remember the drive being, for me, was, for other people it was completely different, but my experience, the drive was super short. I was so confused. I was like, there's nowhere that we can drive that's like really 5 minutes away. How is this possible? And then when they had all left and I taken the blindfold off, I was just in the middle of this forest, and I was like, okay. And then I saw something and realized where I was, and I was like, seriously? This makes no sense. I don't get it. But then I pulled out my paper and figured out my route, and then I got excited. And so God had a little adventure in store for me. But and I love hiking long distances, so they gave me a really long route. It was like 30 kilometers, and I was really, really stoked about that. But of course, loving a challenge, and also, right, it's still kind of before the summer, so there's still been, and it was a really wet spring, so still been a lot of snow out, and so I hadn't really gotten to be on top of any mountains yet, and I love being on top of mountains, so I was a little bit disappointed about that. So I had a couple of route options, and one of them was basically to walk in a straight line, like along like a fire break cut line thing. And I was like, that's too boring. How about I go and I could go around this way and check out this mountain, maybe go up it, and that's what I ended up doing. But I'd never been there before, so lots of bushwhacking, and it was so cool though, because because my route was so long, I was really pushing it, right? And I knew that I had to keep a certain pace in order to get to my pickup point in a good amount of time and have time still to set up camp and stuff. And it was a really neat experience with God, just how he directed me where to go, because it was kind of one of those experiences where you start on a road, and then it turns into like a quad trail, and then it turns into a hiking path, and then it turns into a deer path, and then it turns into like nothing. But God just showed me the way to go, and there was actually after a while of kind of bushwhacking, and it wasn't like there was completely nothing. Like, I was following a stream, I knew where I was on the map. But you know, when you're bushwhacking, it's really handy to have some kind of animal route to follow, so that you're not just climbing over deadfall and stuff the whole time and going up and down crazy little hills and adding a lot of elevation that you don't need, because animals always pick like the easiest way to go. And so God kept directing me to like a different little deer trail or a moose track, and then there was even some little bits of old flagging tape around. I was like, sweet. And that was such a blessing, because so it's spring, so we're having runoff, so that means that the stream that I'm following is like pretty roaring in places, but I knew I needed to cross it at some point, and the little trail thing that I was following led me to a place where I could cross, which I was so stoked about. And that was something I was praying for, and that God answered, and it was really cool. And then yeah, then I ended up going up this saddle and peaking this mountain, and it was so awesome, and I was really stoked. But on the way down, I was like, man, oh, I can go down all of these rocks, which are kind of slippery, and I've got this, you know, heavy pack on because I've got all my overnight stuff with me, and there was a nice bowl full of snow, and I was like, wow, sweet, I'll just glissade down it. And at the top, the snow was pretty good. You know, I checked it out, and so I start sliding, and it's just going hunky-dory. But then as I got closer to the bottom, I guess there was like a thin sheet kind of ice, because that particular bowl, I think, gets a bit of sun. And yeah, so I'm going pretty fast now. I'm sitting on my butt, and I can't stop. And I didn't have an ice axe with me, but I had like a proper stick and whatever, and I'm trying to stop or self-arrest, and it's not working. And so I started praying. Like, I wasn't freaking out. I still had quite a ways to the bottom, but I knew that if I wasn't able to stop before the bottom, like, there was a nice pile of like little boulders and rocks that I was gonna slide into, and I was like, this is not good, and I'm by myself. Why? And so I just started praying and just kind of trying out random different movements to slow myself down. And I don't know what happened, but out of the blue, God just like gave me this thought that I needed to completely change my position. And I didn't realize that my backpack, because of its weight and slipperiness, was actually a big part of the problem. And so all I did was I rolled over onto rolling onto my front wasn't working, but I rolled onto my side and dug like my elbow in and some like heel and toe of my feet, and just came to a complete stop. I was like, wow! I was so excited. But so I thought that, oh, that was the hard part of this solo adventure, and you know, then I'm back on a quad trail. Oh, now it's easy, whatever. Well, I could not for the life of me find my camping spot. It was like to me it appeared that I was supposed to be set up in the middle of a creek, which was obviously not, but the bank the banks on either side were just not suitable for camping. So I ended up finding like my own place, which was pretty close to where I was supposed to be, but still slightly off. But when they told me where I was actually supposed to be, I was so surprised, because I spent like a solid hour like looking for somewhere. Anyways, that was the story of my solo day. But I want to talk more about the summer, because learning to trust God on a team is way harder than learning to trust Him by yourself. And so a big part of the summer was figuring out the plan. Hi guys. For how we were even going to run things. And what it ended up looking like was quite a few family out trips, which were really sweet, but also a big learning how to trust God moment, because we'd never done family out trips. Well, camp had never done family out trips before, and like this, we were new to leading out trips, period. So most Colts are used to leading an out trip of campers that they've gotten to know over the few days before camp starts, and you've got this big group of like 20-30 people with cabin leaders and everything. But that's not the case this summer. Like, we are meeting these people for the first time the day that they're leaving on their out trip, and we are the out trip director, the speaker, the cabin leader, everything. The one nice thing about families is you hope that the parents are awesome, and so that they can act more like the cabin leader for their kids. So I just remember this one family out trip, and it was really challenging, to plan where to go, because different people, often their kids actually have better hiking abilities than they do, but kids can't carry super, like little kids, like 9-year-olds, 8-year-olds, can't carry super heavy packs. And so our family out trips ranged from extremely easy junior, is that what it's called? Like the youngest kids out trips, to harder, like almost like hard intermediate, which is a pretty big spectrum. So it's a real toss-up, if it's going to work out or not. Anyways, I remember it was our second family out trip, and it was a family who, had never been backpacking before as a family, but had done lots of camping, lots of hiking, and so they were pretty stoked about it, and pretty good hikers. So we decided to go on a little bit more challenging of a hike, and a pretty great day hike. We actually got, like, how old is he? A 5-year-old? Maybe 6. Like a 6-year-old to hike. How many meters of elevation was it? It was quite a few meters of elevation in over 1 kilometer. It's that. Hi. Yeah. That beautiful, beautiful place just below the China Wall. We took, we didn't do the China Wall traverse, but we took like a 7-year-old up to that viewpoint below there. So that was awesome. But anyways, so a little moment of trusting God in this was on the way up. The girls, so the kids, it's their first time carrying, they were carrying overnight packs, and goofing off and whatever, and being a little bit off balance and stuff. And one of the kids fell a couple of times. Nothing serious. But then in the middle of the night, and it's a 2-night out trip, so in the middle of the night of the first night, they wake us up, and they're like, I think I have a broken rib. And we're like, no. And long story short, it was just a lot of, the stars were very beautiful out that night. It was a lot of praying and asking God, what should we do? And asking, and instead of panicking and being like, oh, we have to call the trip off and let's all go home and whatever, like it wasn't a super long hike out, but instead of panicking, just making a calm decision based on prayer. And we just really felt like, you know what, this isn't actually an emergency. This is not a big deal. We're all actually, gonna give you, her mom gave her like a painkiller or something, and we're like, okay, if you're feeling okay, like just try to go back to sleep, and we'll see how you feel in the morning. And stuff was still hurting a little bit that morning, so then we were actually able to get in contact with people via cell phone. I got to go for a fun run and find cell reception. And yeah, we didn't call the whole trip off. We didn't majorly change our plans. We just ended up hiking her out, and she got to have a really fun day with some friends back at camp. And turns out, like, she wasn't really super hurt at all. It was just, you know, a little bit of, like, maybe too much excitement and maybe a little bit of fear combined with some soreness from pulling muscles just from not being used to carrying a heavy pack. So it all worked out okay, and we kept going with the rest of the family and did our day hike and spent the rest of the night. And it was such a special time, especially for one of the kids, because it happened to be their birthday on the out trip. And that was so cool that they got to have a really special birthday in the mountains, and actually woke them up special at just before sunrise to hike up a little ways and watch the sunrise, which I think was, yeah, a very neat experience for all of us. So that's just a little story of learning to trust God before, like, with plans changing before you even happen, but then also with plans changing while you're out in the middle of a trip, which is, you know, pretty common. But just the way that this summer was, it made everything trickier. And it wasn't like oh, you can, if this happens, you know, follow this, you know, 6 steps, or if that happens, here's these 5 steps to follow. It was really kind of make it up as you go, because we're all making it up as we go, because everything is completely different this summer. And so that was a really fun time. But just along those general lines of learning how to trust God on a team, especially having to entrust this, and this was probably one of the hardest lessons for me, was trusting other people to lead. So I naturally like being in control. I like being the leader. And our whole time training this summer, and actually most of the out trips, I did not get put into a lead position. I got put into a following position or a support position, and that was extremely challenging to me, to learn how to be the support and to be helpful to the leaders, but let them make the final decisions and basically submit and go along with what they were deciding. And that was very challenging for me. And I remember on our major out trip, I was supposed to, you know, we don't really find out where we're leading until like the night before. And I was anticipating leading earlier on in the out trip, but on our major, I didn't lead until the last day. And God changed a lot of stuff on our major out trip, major plans. So a big thing in the mountains, right, is the weather. And it being spring and the weather being crazy, we had a thunderstorm like night 3, and I'm sure the other Colts are going to share some of this story, so I'll just give a very quick summary of my perspective of it. But we had a thunderstorm, and it melted a ton of snow, and things that were creeks turned into raging rivers. But in order to follow our route, we had to cross quite a few of them. And yeah, I wasn't leading. I still didn't know when I was leading at this point, but it wasn't me. And so I was having to trust the other Colts who, you know, they're just pulling out the map and figuring out the route now, for them to make wise decisions, because all of a sudden the weather and the terrain have made things a lot more challenging and a lot riskier. And yeah, we didn't make the best decisions the whole time. And yeah, people definitely got a little bit hurt, and stuff like didn't go the way that we planned or that we hoped necessarily, but God was faithful to us through it all. And I just remember that night 4 was really rough, and none of us really slept at all, and we were all pretty mildly hypothermic, but there was a couple in our group that we were really concerned about, and it was just a night of praying. And we had just set up like an emergency random campsite that night because completing our route, which was only like 6 or 8 kilometers or something, literally took, I don't know if it was like 9 hours or 10 hours. It was ridiculous. It was a long hike with very heavy packs because just the weather and the conditions had made things so much more challenging, and having a lot of creek crossings and stuff like that. So that was really hard for me to, honestly, because when it came to like physically, I was one of the ones who was doing okay physically still at this point, which meant that I needed to be doing okay mentally and emotionally as well, so that Yin and Stephanie could take care of those who weren't doing so great physically. And that was very hard for me to make that decision, to be like, you know what, I'm going to trust God that we're going to be okay, and that I'm okay, even though I don't feel okay right now, even though I'm angry at whoever's in charge right now of the decisions that they made that have now put me and put our group in this situation, and, you know, all those thoughts running through your head. But I had to decide, you know, it's going to be okay. I'm okay. God's still in control. So I need to choose joy right now. I need to choose to encourage and support the leader, and to do everything I can to basically pull my load and then some, because we have 2 people here who aren't really functioning great right now. And so I have to, even though I'm cold and frustrated and tired, etc., you know what, we're just going to push through and set up camp and not worry about the plan. And not worry about when my day to lead is and what it's going to look like, because our whole route plan has changed now. And so that was a big moment, I think, of surrender for me. And it was so amazing because I did end up leading the very last day, which, you know, I was supposed to have led something like 6 to 10 kilometers to our pickup point, but just because of how our route ended up changing, the day of my leadership, we were already at our pickup point. And so my day was pretty easy, but I had a whole bunch of hours to fill, and I knew that everyone was kind of recovering from the past 3 really rough days, and God just gave me such peace and creativity in the midst of my tiredness of how to bless and support the rest of the group, and he just gave me such joy. And I think that was a common theme for me personally this summer, was that when I tried to take things into my own hands, when I tried to be in control of my time or my energy, that it just sapped my joy and made me like more tired. But when I surrendered that time and energy to God, and surrendered how much sleep I was getting to God, and surrendered my energy and the plans, and deciding to be okay with not going places I wanted to go, or not getting to lead, or not being on the biggest adventure, whatever, when I surrendered to that to Him, I just had so much joy and fun, and got to build some cool relationships, and learn a lot. And it's amazing the learning experiences you can have in the most unexpected places. You don't have to climb the biggest mountain. You don't have to go to the riskiest hike or spot in order to learn big things, in order to learn lessons that you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. And also, even just like, mountains are mountains. God can use, and people are people. God uses both nature and people to teach us things, and it doesn't have to be in an extreme situation to learn an extremely important lesson. So I think often it's harder to trust God with the little things than the big things. So that's a big part of it. But anyways, thank you for listening in to a couple of my fun stories and just some other fun moments from the summer. We had a lot of fun being our own little cohort, and we definitely had to get creative in order to have fun together, because it's not like there wasn't, you know, 100 or so other people at camp to hang out with, and we were just stuck with each other. So we really had to learn how to work together and put up with each other. And so it definitely, there were some fun tea parties were had, some fun dress up parties. We've seen pictures of the Mennonite trash bag girls. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Very good times, good fellowship, lots of memories of many prayer times and worship times on the dock. So, and I got the privilege of getting to run with Stephanie's dog Bear almost every morning, because that's how I like to wake up, and he did not kill me and I didn't kill him. So yay! Okay, well, I hope you're enjoying this time, and yeah, have a lot of fun at our online winter camp. Okay, bye!